So this is burdock. So this is burdock. This is the burdock that we have just made a tinder from, and it will smoulder for a long time. This is dry burdock, and to process dry burdock leaf, so dry burdock leaf doesn't always feel very dry, it feels slightly damp, but it's actually just because it's quite leathery. But this is actually quite dry. I've actually had it indoors for a little while. I've had it indoors for about a week. I'm going to turn it into a tinder that will accept a spark from a ferro rod, and is something that you can make up and just store in a tinder box for later use. But I would recommend this because this stuff's amazing, absolutely amazing, and you could probably extend it into something like tinder stick that you can light. So for example, like the accelerants that I light, that I use to light my fires, the ones made with pine sap. So first of all, rest your ferro rod end in, well, usually I'd put it in the bundle or whatever I'm wanting to put a spark in. So what I'm doing is I'm resting it down there. I've got whatever I want the spark in going into there, and what I do is I'm just going to drive down with my striker. All the sparks end up in there, including the shavings, and the shavings actually catch fire as well if they get a spark. And that way you have a much more controlled way of getting your spark exactly where you want it. So what I do first is I pull the leaf off and I put it on the block. Because what we're actually going to do is to grind it between those two. These are actually not bricks, these are dressed stones, and so they have a really rough surface. And what I do is I collect as much of it as possible, form a nice bundle. I want to try and strip as much of the kind of the stem that's in the leaf out, but get the leaf matter, and so that's about good. So what I'm actually doing is doing this, and what it does is it eventually abrades it, and you get this sausage forming. You do get a bit of dust, so you want to try and do it in a breeze so you're not inhaling the dust. There we are, and what starts to occur is you start to get this fluff. What you do is you just strip that fluff off the leaf. It's probably just needs a little bit more processing. So I tend to break it into smaller pieces there, and then process it again. It seems to be that when it forms a sausage and starts to coalesce together like that, you can really grind it down. And I think you can probably do roller friction fire with this. I'm not really that practiced at that, and I'm not that keen on roller friction fire. So this is what you start to get, which is this fluff. So how do I know that burdock does this? I'd say it's a combination of knowing plants well and experimentation. But basically, you look at how a plant can be processed, and then you see if it can be processed into a fluff. So that's smouldering really well. I don't think I would need to put another spark into that, which is interesting because it means that actually it's a really volatile, flammable material.